Kathleen Kennedy hasn't been fired from Lucasfilm. It looks like Bob Iger is back in charge of Disney. The sequel trilogy hasn't had a reboot. There was never a woke feminist agenda to ruin your childhood. Jeremy loved The Last Jedi. And at this point, does anybody even care what the Fandom Menace thinks? What's up, Acolyte Squad? My name is Prince, and I'm an urban acolyte. I know some of y'all have been begging for me to go in on the Fandom Menace one more time, and that's not really what I'm about anymore, but I wanted to make a video to respond to a tweet that I got from my main guy, Arturo, who's also known as the Mexican Trainer, because, well, he's Mexican and he's also a personal trainer. So, yo, if you're trying to work on your fitness, but you don't want to give up on Taco Tuesday, holler at my man Arturo to get that body right in 2023. But anyway, Arturo wrote this tweet about me, and I wanted to make a video response to the tweet. And just keeping it 100 with y'all, I got all of this new gear off the money that my other channel has been making, so I kind of wanted to make a video just to test all of this stuff out. But anyway, so Arturo's tweet said, "You know who I can really respect? The urban acolyte, Prince Bell. He didn't stick around and fight with nerds about Star Wars. He said his piece and then he pieced out. Even though the people who fought with him were clearly wrong, every main character was just like Rey." Now I can go in a completely different direction with what I want to say and talk about the hero's journey and how it's always the same story told different. But that's sort of the theme for everything that I'm doing related to geek culture. So if you want to hear that conversation, well, just stay tuned because I'll be doing it here and on the Urban Acolyte 2.0 channel with some anime shows like Dragon Ball, Naruto, and Hunter x Hunter. What I want to talk about here is this whole arguing with nerds over Star Wars. So do you guys remember the excitement back when Disney first acquired Lucasfilm and announced that there were going to be more Star Wars movies? All of my friends who were into this sort of thing were excited. My Facebook feed was full of these speculations. I mean, would they go back and do Thrawn? How will it all work with the trio of Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford being so much older than they were in the EU? I mean, what are they even going to do with the EU? People had all of these questions, but the excitement started to turn to anger when we were told that the EU was never even going to be part of the George Lucas canon, and that moving forward, Lucasfilm under Disney would be expanding on the George Lucas canon. We found out about this girl, Rey, who had this mysterious background around her, and people either loved Rey or they hated her. We got Jyn Erso in Rogue One, a movie that Star Wars fans who didn't like The Force Awakens seemed to get behind. But there also started this whole thing where people were saying that there was this Kathleen Kennedy girl power feminist agenda in Star Wars. And by the 2016 election, the conversation began to shift, and the way people in politics talked about Hillary Clinton, nerds in this space started to talk the same way about Kathleen Kennedy. Every bad decision in Lucasfilm was because of Kathleen Kennedy. All of these women being thrust into the spotlight, well, it was because of Kathleen Kennedy's feminist agenda. Kathleen Kennedy wants to ruin your childhood, even though she worked on just about every movie that probably defined your childhood if you were a kid in the 80s like me. And the funny thing is that none of this stuff was ever supported by facts, even though the people making these arguments were the main ones who said ridiculous stuff like facts over feelings. They never had any facts, just manufactured nonsense that people wanted to believe because, well, they took pleasure in knowing, hey, I'm not the only one who feels this way. And I'm not criticizing the people who jumped on that ship. Many people started to follow me because I was interested in Finn. I've read it in the comments and in posts. I've had lengthy emails from people saying, hey, Prince, I started following you because I was interested in Finn, but then I saw someone who looks like me and is well spoken like me, and I couldn't help but want to support what you were doing. Like, I basically became the place for other Black folks who are into geek culture, who speak well and are educated to come out and geek out. And someone's going to read this as some kind of racist statement, and I mean, that's okay. I mean, it's not, but I can't tell somebody how to think, even when it's completely ridiculous. For some reason, people get offended easily these days on the internet. What I'm saying is that, in general, people are tribal. We want to be around similarly minded people, and it's kind of how this channel grew. I used to always use analogies from Star Wars in the videos that I was making before that no one ever understood. They just wanted to talk about Kundalini and chakras and meditation. One day I decided to try and share my excitement over the new Star Wars movies with them. And what happened is, well, all of you Star Wars fans started watching and my old audience stopped watching. I started making money and I said, well, hell, I might as well stick with this Star Wars thing, even though I really wanted to keep talking about martial arts and meditation stuff and how it's like we're kind of training to be like Jedis in the real world. And since I mentioned building an audience and making money, well, that brings us to the Fandom Menace. Now, I can't prove that Jeremy of Geeks and Gamers and these other Fandom Menace people have any financial support from alt-right leaning news organizations, but I have a strong feeling that anyone working closely with Ethan Van, whatever his face is, has ties to Breitbart. Like that AK spitting rapper guy, whatever his name is. He's connected somehow with Breitbart, and I've been saying it for the last 2 years. Gamersgate did the same thing as Comicsgate did, the same thing as Star Wars Gate. I told y'all the playbook a long time ago, but people didn't want to listen to me, and so there was no point in arguing with a straw man. They created this narrative, and their audience just sucked it up like a newborn baby on their mother's teeth. If anyone opposed what they said, they told them, look, the people who don't like us are woke. They're soy boys, or they're shills, or they're all of the above. They're going to say that we're racist, that we're deplorable, and everything else, so y'all get ready. I'm not making any of this stuff up. I'm not going to look at any of their recent content because, well, I've come across these kind of people in the real world, and they always back down when they're face to face. I mean, seriously, if you're some loser who calls yourself Fandom Menace, ask yourself why Jeremy backed down when I said we can have a discussion face to face while wearing boxing gloves. I mean, over here in Southeast Asia, I had a guy on a live stream talking that woke mess to me for absolutely no reason. I was moderating for a local YouTuber over here who was on a live stream. Well, this guy goes up to meet the YouTuber Cheap Charlie, and he starts talking about how he has a problem with one of the mods. Now I'm in the chat saying, hey dog, speak your truth, playboy. Say what you gotta say, pimp. Dude never says my name, not one time. Now this all happened like a 10, maybe 15-minute walk from my apartment, and I asked the guy if he wanted to have this conversation in person, offline. Of course I got crickets. These people are cowards, and on top of that, they're never interested in being actually right. They just want to push their narrative. And before all this Doomcock was right nonsense, Doomcock never said anything where he was right that other people also didn't say. His fans like to point out that he leaked all of the Rise of Skywalker plot, but they ignore the people who already leaked that information. They ignore that I predicted The Last Jedi in a video right before I went to see the movie. And that was just me coming straight off the dome. I don't have any inside sources. I don't know anyone in the industry except a few people on Facebook that I know because of martial arts. And they don't tell me anything. So all of this, well, they got this right. I mean, who cares? The truth is these people are never interested in being right. They're interested in pushing a narrative. And why? Because telling their audience what their audience wants to hear is what gets them paid. Well, until it doesn't. See, you eventually hit a point where you start saying things that don't make sense. You start doing things that don't make sense. Like telling your audience that politics has no place in geek culture is one thing, but then you can't turn around and start yelling at your viewers to run out and go vote for Donald Trump. I mean, why would you even do that? If you make content for geeks and gamers where you say politics shouldn't be part of any of this stuff, but then you tell them how they ought to vote, I mean, what are you really doing? Who's really supporting you? It sounds to me like you don't want anything that goes against your politics in Star Wars or Marvel movies or in video games. And it sounds to me like you're incapable of actually dealing with the story that the creators wish to tell. And if that's the case, then why are you providing commentary? And I can't really call it commentary when all you're doing is pushing your own views. It's like all these conservative geek culture commentary people suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Like they have this cognitive bias where they feel like they're suddenly experts on everything. Their audience believes them because they see this person on the screen as some kind of an expert. So they parrot this nonsense. I'll give you an example, and I'm getting ready to take somebody to school. Remember when all the Fandom Menace channels were trying to troll Simu Liu and saying that Shang-Chi would flop? Simu Liu said that he was proud of being the first Asian superhero to receive this level of promotion, being the starring role in a Marvel film. Now, is he the first Asian superhero in a movie? No, he's not. But has anyone had the Disney-backed Marvel level of marketing behind them? Hell no. So I just happened to come across this YouTube channel called The Quartering, where he tried to clown Simu's statement. So he's like, there's no Asian superstars that you could have seen when you were growing up, really? So he proceeded to show pictures of Bruce Lee, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, and Donnie Yen. And I laughed to myself because The Quartering is so stupid that he didn't realize that he owned himself. Now, I know this guy has like 1 million and something subscribers, and honestly, I don't give a rat's ass. Just for that thing he did alone, The Quartering is a big idiot. So, I mean, you guys may not know this, but towards the end of last year, I became the most viewed channel for Bruce Lee related videos on YouTube. Based on subscribers, I'm technically number 3 of the Bruce Lee channels, but I'm consistently getting more views than the 2 biggest channels. So I'm just gonna say, I know way too many random things about not only Bruce Lee, but the rest of those guys on the Quarterings list. So peak game. So Bruce Lee, a guy who was born in San Francisco, returns to the US at 18. He tries to make it in Hollywood, but no one would really give him a shot. And don't point to Kato and the Green Hornet, just trust me. There's a reason why Bruce Lee had to go back to Hong Kong to become a star. I mean, even the Kung Fu series could have been his big shot, but studio executives said that his accent was too thick for white people in Middle America. That's true. Jackie Chan initially got his start in sort of a Bruceploitation movie, and director Lo Wei was trying to cast Jackie Chan as sort of the successor to Bruce Lee. That didn't work out, and he did the Kung Fu comedy thing, which obviously worked out for him. Jackie Chan tried to come across the sea to work in Hollywood in the early 80s. All of those movies flopped, and he was basically a sideshow character in the Cannonball Run, so he had to go back to Hong Kong. Jackie Chan didn't even make it in Hollywood until Rush Hour in 1998. By that point, Jackie Chan had been making movies for 35 years. And you know what happened after the Rush Hour trilogy? Jackie Chan had to go back to China to make movies. You want to talk about Jet Li? That's an easy one. Lethal Weapon 4, Romeo Must Die, Cradle to the Grave, Kiss of the Dragon, Unleashed, War. Now, he's had a few other movies in the West, but if you're actually a fan of Jet Li, you know that he wants to make movies around Buddhism and Tai Chi, which is why you see him as some kind of a Buddhist monk who does internal styles in a lot of his later roles. In Hollywood, Jet Li could only be the little guy who says very little but kicks people in the face. And if he really wanted to play the roles that he wanted to promote and get paid, he had to go back to China. And that brings us to Donnie Yen. If you're like Grace Randolph and you only knew Donnie Yen from the Yip Man movies before he played in Rogue One, well, did you know that Donnie Yen is actually American? His mom is a famous kung fu master, Bo Sim Mark. You'd think a Boston boy who knows a lot of cool looking kung fu would have come up in Hollywood, but nope, Donnie Yen had to go to China. Did you know that Donnie Yen was the first person to do a breakdancing scene in a Chinese movie? That's how American your homeboy is. To make a name for himself, he had to go to China. In Hollywood, Donnie Yen is never the star. Hell, he choreographed half the fights in Blade 2, and he was one of the first people to be killed off in that movie. I guess they didn't want him to outshine everyone else. So this argument about Simu Liu not being this positive image for Asian kids raised in the West, it carries no weight. Just like I said, the Quartering thought he was saying something and his audience lapped it up like a pack of thirsty dogs. But for the people who know, he proved his own point. I give you another one that the Quartering didn't mention, but Philip Ong. I just mentioned him on a video I'm working on for my Bruce Lee channel. This guy played Bruce Lee in a movie. His kung fu is amazing. His dad has a Choi Lee Foot school in Chicago where Philip is from originally. Philip studied Wing Chun with Wong Sheng Lung, who was Bruce Lee's senior brother who taught him the majority of Bruce's lessons. And this guy had to go to Hong Kong to get into the movie business. Most of y'all have probably never even heard of him. The point that Simo Liu was making was that he didn't have to go to China. Kids don't have to look at Chinese movies or have an iQIYI account to see a Chinese superhero. They've got one right here in a major Marvel movie, and that was the point. And that is a clear example of how these guys just aren't smart enough to know what they don't know. But it doesn't matter to them. The only thing that matters is they repeat these talking points, create a narrative, and hope that their audience keeps buying their BS. So to bring this back around to what my guy Arturo said, I stopped arguing with these nerds who are creating narratives and repeating talking points. I'm just not interested in responding to this nonsense. The majority of the people who aspire to be like the bigger creators in the Fandom Menace are just chasing after hate clicks, and for me to respond to that stuff and get embroiled in the arguments is a waste of my time. Look, y'all, I've been doing a lot of work on my own trying to learn to understand YouTube's search and discovery system, how to build an audience on YouTube, how to really grow a channel and turn it into a business that can support my growing family over here in Southeast Asia, and how to really have something that I can look back on and be proud of building. Arguing with the Fandom Menace is not something that interests me. And when I think about the digital audience that I would want as customers or people who might come up to some event where we can meet, maybe train in person, the folks going for all this Fandom Menace stuff, those people just don't interest me. I wouldn't want to hang out with them. I wouldn't want to hang out with the creators of those channels. And I imagine the people who like to watch all of that stuff, they're just really not people that I'd see myself wanting to be around. I had this one coworker who must have seen some of my videos because he used to try to provoke me at work. He'd say stuff like, well, Rey can't be the Last Jedi because the Last Jedi can't be a girl. And I look at him and say, okay, that's nice, my dude. Like, I'm not going to sit and argue about Star Wars like that. I got better things to do. And really, I'd rather talk about Kung Fu or kettlebells or, I don't know, something that actually matters to me. Arguing about a story that I can't change isn't high on my list of priorities. Actually, just at this present time, if someone were to talk to me on the street, I'd probably be geeking out over something related to YouTube or Bruce Lee. So yeah, y'all, like, I'm not trying to say that you can't argue with stupid, and I don't want to call anyone stupid even when I think they are. So I'll say this, you can't convince a person when they have their mind set on something. If I build up a narrative and repeat it enough to the point where I amass a lot of people who want to hear what I have to say, it's going to take a whole lot to convince them otherwise, and not just one time, but something like hearing it 8 times at least. And I could do that, but I'm not. I'd rather talk about the stuff that I enjoy and share it with others. And this is the thing about my channel. I've always been this way. You guys got to remember something. When I started out on YouTube, I was in this weird space. I was like a spirituality channel that was telling people to meditate, do qigong and yoga, and practice martial arts. The most important thing was people knew that I was sharing my experience and giving advice just based on if people wanted to follow the path that I was on. But I never said you have to do it like this or that this is the only way. My thing was everyone has their own experience and you have to decide for yourself what's right. What I see way too much are people who come on here wanting to be told exactly what to think, or they think a certain way and they want to hear a creator confirm their previously held beliefs and biases. I don't function that way. It's like my acupuncture doctor told a new patient yesterday while I was on the table. The guy asked how quickly the doctor could fix him, and he said, well, it's difficult to say. Everyone responds differently. We just have to try the treatment and see what happens. Even 2 people being treated for the same condition might have a different treatment. So you guys can think on that one. I'm kind of getting tired of talking. So at this point, I'm going to get back to work on these Bruce Lee videos from my other channel because that's what makes the money and pays the bills around here. But hey, man, I'm planning to get back active on this channel, but I haven't yet decided how I want to approach the new videos. I don't really want to do the same old news, reviews, and updates. I'd like to do video essays just on trending topics. So like I get an idea what everyone else is talking about and sort of post a reflection on all of that. It's a different approach, but it's actually how the channel initially kicked off. I wasn't so much reviewing anything. I would just watch or read and then reflect and share it with you guys. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, anyway, hey man, happy New Year's to y'all. For those interested, the baby will be here soon. And that's all I got for this one. So thanks for hanging out. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the force of others be with you always.